The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Tuesdays here at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you will get our starting five shout-outs going. Big thanks to all of you that popped by to see us at Zipline and or at Addie's on North 10th in downtown. What an experience we had. How much fun it was to be there leading up to many of the College World Series games. Big thanks to Jabba Chamberlain as well for joining us. We had a great time, and we'll do it again next year as we now focus in on football season. Numbers to get in at 489-1240. 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com. Also watch and subscribe, Hail Varsity YouTube and the Hail Varsity Twitter handle. Follow that at HVarsity Radio. At Herbal Essence, that's where you can follow Elijah at Schmidt_radio for me. So, 38,795 Jell-O shots purchased later. Your national champ, Tennessee. Your Jell-O shot champ at Rocco's, Tennessee. And no, not all 38,000 taken last night, but could have been. A lot of star power in Omaha with Morgan and Peyton and the whole crew. Most of your head coaches for Tennessee football. What a showcase. It was a good time. Tough for A&M. Just don't ask their head coach. We'll hear on that. Is there some worry going on with Nebraska's 2025 quarterback commit? We'll get into that national interview with 24/7 Sports after the Elite 11 camp with Mr. Lateef. Michael Bruntz with us in 1 hour. Matt Schick of ESPN, Sirius XM, and the Schick and Nick podcast with us also in hour 2. And Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch will unleash the fury. We'll get his take on the Tuttle Walk and the topic du jour. That is toughest places to play. Thank you, EA Sports, for putting this list out. Thank you, as our friend Brian Christopherson put it, kicking Nebraska fans in the pants. And we'll dive into it fully. Elijah, good night of sports, man. You had a great game in Omaha with Tennessee and A&M. You had a phenomenal Game 7 with the NHL as Florida hung on. You want to talk about pressure on the old goalie. Goalies are usually psycho anyway, and I mean that lovingly. Between the pipes, you put a mask on and you just take vicious pepperings like you're the third baseman in Major League. Except there's other guys without teeth that go A and love Labatt's. What a Game 7 last night on the ice. I caught both wonderful moments. And now we get ready for football. But good Monday, dude. Good to have you in. And how was your night? I know you were caged in the studio.
Yeah, just spent most of the night watching sports, which is never a bad recipe. Great baseball we got to see last night. Almost nailed the 6-3 score prediction. Texas A&M, though, with that late drama a little bit there, screwed me over. But Game 7 was also awesome. I don't know how Edmonton did not tie that thing up in the third period with the amount of chances. Shots, yeah. The amount of chances that your best player, Connor McDavid, the Conn Smythe winner, had there in that third period. You thought they had to tie it up and send it to overtime. But credit to the Florida Panthers. That was fun. Greatest tradition in all of sports is seeing Lord Stanley get skated around by each and every member of the Florida Panthers. That's always awesome to see. Awesome to see Tennessee get a national title celebration in baseball. That was really fun, as well as the Tennessee faithful really showed out. And now the question becomes, Schmitty, what the hell are we going to do until the 4th of July? Because
football.
That's like there's the little benchmarks throughout the offseason you get to with spring football. And I mean, there's basketball and baseball, obviously, in the winter and spring months. And you get to summertime, it's, College World Series, you have postseason baseball. The next benchmark is the 4th of July, and then after that, it's Big Ten Media Days, so it is right around the corner. It might not feel like it, but football season is just about here. We got about a month of shows to bring you before Big Ten Media Days get kicked off, fall camp's underway, and we're into another Husker football season, which is very exciting. I did have a question to ask you.
Yes.
Was it intentional that all of our guests today are M names?
No.
Mitch, Michael, and Matt?
No, that's how sometimes Tuesdays roll.
I mean, it feels like it could be intentional. I didn't know if you were trying to send a message of anything.
No. As in, we needed to mix an A and a T in there, or no?
No, I'm just like, I didn't know if today was brought to you by the letter M, or if there
the
was
three
some clever
M's.
promotion
Today's
in there.
brought to you, as always, by your friends at Cornhead Lager. We love you. And we know Tennessee and A&M fans partook greatly. Jimmy is in. Jimmy is checking us out before he goes to see Lyle Lovett. Good for you, Jimmy. Weston from humid Blair, Nebraska. Weston, thank you. Patrick checks in 3. Crew in at 4. Cliff in from Florida. The heat index down in Florida, a paltry 107. Cliff, get back to us when it's one. I'm kidding. Jeff is in. Sal, good to have you in the StreamYard. The starting 5 shout-outs and a little overtime. Sal says, told many of my customers that from Tennessee that the monster has been awakened. The Huskers are back. Sal, a lot of Nebraska fans are hoping you are correct. Tuck, let's have a day. May the AC be working everywhere. Tuck, I am nodding in approval. Moonbot7 says, howdy, nerds. A-Dub says, yo, Justin is in. Walter from Philly says, eat it, Trev. Wow. Moonbot, again, tipping his cap to me with my water consumption. William is in. Been watching older games. Why don't we wear the 2002 away jerseys, or at least the pants again? They were clean. There's not a lot from 2002, William, we need to bring back. But I guess 7-7's a start, comparatively speaking.
I don't, maybe not, this is all conjecture at this point, but I have heard Matt Rule does want to get a little creative with the uniforms at some point. Do we see the return of the all-whites or maybe the all-reds? We see the all-reds a lot in recruiting. Do we see a return of the all-reds to the football field? I'd be curious.
I think they have been banned.
I don't know.
I think they have been banned by the former greats that played before.
Well, kind of like the former people in charge who banned Friday night home football games. Oh, well, times change.
Yeah, they might.
I'd be curious to see. I'd love to see the all-whites for sure. I was always a fan of the all-whites. Maybe the all-reds make a return someday, too.
Give me the 2016 all-white mat. You won in those.
Who'd you play that year?
Northwestern.
Okay, yeah, I remember those. Those were nice. Yep.
Eat beef. A lot of swamp backside today. It is. Michael is in. The other Dave checking in beachside in San Diego. Good for you. Hope you're on Coronado Island. Mike is in. Good for Mike. Scott says, what's up? KG is here. And we'll get some more shout-outs as well on the StreamYard. Negative Mike. He is in on it and says Lateef might decommit. We'll get there in just a minute. I want to ask you as a Nebraska fan, 489-1240. All right, the scale is this. Toughest place to play ever. We're going to just say Miami in the old Orange Bowl. That has been bulldozed. But nobody won there. They still have the record for longest win streak in college football, a 58-game home winning streak, and a monstrous night game winning streak. Nebraska from 91 through 98 broached that number. Easiest place to go win a college football game, pre-K-State, pre-Bill Snyder.
K-State, pre-Bill Snyder. There it is.
Thank you. I should articulate it a little bit better. K-State, pre-Bill Snyder, where football went to die.
You could also say Baylor, pre-RG3.
No, they were good in Singletary era. That's almost 40 plus years ago.
I always remember Baylor.
You want to just take the Kevin Steele Baylor era?
Well, I'm just talking like the Baylor era that I grew up on, where there was 5 fans there. Half the crowd is covered by tarps.
That was 5 more than K-State had. So when we talk about Nebraska and Memorial Stadium, and to reference this, EA Sports, the video game, they put out their rankings. The games return to consoles or downloads July 19th, and they have their top 25. They list A&M as the number 1 most difficult place to play. Think about intimidation. I've never been to A&M. Our old buddy Jay Moore references it from time to time. It was a great win for that Nebraska team to clinch the North, but it's just vicious to go down there and play. It's so loud, it's so packed, and the place is swaying. Whatever you think of A&M and their fan base, and I've not bumped into many bad A&M fans. They're just different. Unique, I think, was the term we used yesterday with A&M. But they're there. I think LSU is there.
Well, before we dive too far into this list, because we're going to get our take on this, I do want to articulate that I think this list sucks.
Well, I think it's just wrong.
Yeah, well, it sucks.
I mean, it's just wrong. And your criteria for what makes a place, air quote, intimidating or difficult, first and foremost, is your product on the field, right? Are you going to get your butt handed to you on 3rd and 8 because there's a pack of psychos coming after your quarterback? Are you unable to stop the run game? Are they just going to sledgehammer you to death between the 20s and then overpower your willpower in that fourth quarter? I mean, think of what was the magic formula: bigger, stronger, faster, tougher for Nebraska football for all those glory years. It was something that I think Nebraska will get back to under Matt Rule. But also, you need game wreckers on defense. You need dudes on offense. You need cage psychos on the lines of scrimmage. Okay, does Nebraska have any parts of those puzzle pieces? And time will tell. Time will tell. But Nebraska got soft and got broke post-Pelini era. Teams didn't always win under Bo. Sometimes they got embarrassed under Bo. But you always knew, for the most part, you've been in a fight with the Pelini teams. With Riles coming in, they just got pushed around. They got soft on the lines of scrimmage. And it went, I don't know that they were completely soft under Scott. They were just a mess. There's more than just physicality. Not a lot of development. I'll just go that route with the Frost era. And you've got a priority on development and toughness with Matt Rule, because he's not going to baby his players. He's going to make them hit and tackle and all those good things. So you get that part right on the field, and then you get the 90,000 ticked off and something to cheer about. When's the last time you were at Memorial Stadium and the place was unhinged? It was absolutely peak crazed.
Night game, Nebraska, Michigan, 2021.
Yes. And we're working on 3 seasons ago for that. Mm-hmm. Going back, I got to think of Jano's run against Wisconsin. Yep. Or the Michigan State win in 2015, a night game in November somehow in the Big Ten. And prior to that, it was Alex Henry, Sioux era. So, I mean, those are some moments. But is Nebraska really that tough a place to play? Record-wise, since 2014, Elijah, in 2014, that's the last time EA Sports was out. And Nebraska ranked 13th as most intimidating place to play. Now they're not ranked. There's uproar and frustration by some Nebraska fans. There's also some acknowledgement, because there's some of the fans, I'm not knocking you, but something goes wrong and you see momentum switch and you're like, well, here you go again. You've been waiting for something positive to happen. You're waiting more so now for something bad to happen. I think that trend reverses this season.
And it's been a while since we've seen Memorial Stadium rocking. I don't think Nebraska, as it stands right now, is a top 10 most intimidating place to go play in college football. But I look at this top 25 list from EA Sports for the rankings that are going to be included in this new game, and I go, really? Yeah, Spartan Stadium for Michigan State at 22?
They're good for knocking off somebody each year.
Yeah, like one good rocking game a year, which I think Nebraska's probably good for about the same recently. You have Boise State at 24, Utah at 18.
I think Utah, because of how they play ball, is tough, and you've had some Giants struggle there. I mean, teams that have better, air quote, talent don't go to Utah and survive typically.
I think that's more a credit to the Utah football program and how they've been built, how they play as opposed to the stadium. But maybe that's being factored in here by EA Sports. I
think Boulder is nuts.
Boulder, I think, probably deserves a shout for the top 25. I think Nebraska probably deserves to be in that back end of the 25. If Kinnick's at 20, Kinnick Stadium, and I respect Kinnick Stadium. That place gets rocking whenever they have a big game. Night games at Kinnick, that's a really, really tough place to go play. I'm not discrediting them, but if they come in at 20, I think Nebraska should be right there.
Well, think about it, we go back to history. Iowa has had some wow wins or some wow performances in the past 10 years. I think of Virginia Tech.
Lane.
Enter Sandman. My brother and Cranack still rave about that game against Virginia Tech when Nebraska played out there, and that was a day game. You've got to have a separate category. You got to go night game, quite honestly, because that's peak craziness.
Yeah.
And I've never been to LSU. I've never been to Alabama, but I think they're probably your 1-2. I think the most intimidating place to play, and again, I have not visited it, but I think Penn State probably tops Ohio State. It tops Michigan.
It's what Camp Randall was included at number 7 on this list.
I think it's everyone I've talked to who's gone, aside from you, says that place is hell to go try and exist in if you're the opposing team, especially if you're a fan. We'll check in with Mitch Sherman. He's on the way with Hail Varsity.
It's that time.
Hey, Mitch. Mitchie. We're looking for you, pal.
Mitch Sherman from The Athletic, talking Big Red.
Unleash the fury, Mitch.
Unleash the fury!
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Find him on Twitter at Mitch Sherman. Mitch, how we doing? Thanks for the time.
I'm good, just trying to avoid the heat.
Yeah, stay inside. Is it a morning mow or a late evening mow?
We kind of got the mow done before this heat wave came. So right now the grass is pretty short, and if I was going to do it in this weather, I would probably I don't do too many morning mows, but that might be the way to go.
Yeah, I think if mowing the grass is on your itinerary for yesterday or today, like, you're in for a world of hurt. You just screwed up. You should have had better foresight.
You did. You had some poor planning there going on there, for sure. I'm with you.
Hotter, the Nebraska weather or the Nebraska fan base with the EA Sports ranking the omission of Nebraska in the top 25, Mitch?
Probably the weather, although I haven't gotten a great read on my thermometer on how the Nebraska fans feel about being omitted from the top 25 most difficult places to play. I'm a little puzzled by it myself. I know Nebraska was 14th. One of my coworkers told me 10 years ago when these rankings last came out. And, Memorial Stadium, I don't think it's changed all that much since then. It doesn't seem to be a ranking of necessarily of the team that occupies the stadium, because Texas A&M hasn't done a tremendous amount of winning of late, and the Aggies are number 1. So some discrepancy there. If you're just talking about the characteristics of the stadium, how loud it can get at a certain time, whatever, the way that the noise moves through the stadium. Nebraska's Memorial Stadium, when it's at its best and rocking and rolling, absolutely is one of the more difficult places to play in the country. But obviously the creators of this game held it against the Huskers, and I understand why, that the teams have been bad for the last, close to a decade.
Mitch, on Twitter, bud, you said fix the Tuttle Walk, part of the solution when we talk about Nebraska. Your thoughts on the fix? I mean, Mitch Sherman Consulting on line 1.
Yeah, I felt this way for a while, and obviously that's not the reason that Nebraska struggled at home, and I wasn't trying to insinuate that. There's some nuance involved in this, and that was just kind of the one thing that I pulled out. But I do think it needs to be updated. I think the song is past its expiration date. Michael Jordan's not winning championships anymore. It's really not like the cool thing to do in the world of sports to emulate the 1990s Chicago Bulls, which is, as great as they were, and that's where Nebraska got the song. And I suppose for as long as Nebraska kept it going, it could kind of be their key to winning or their recipe, but really, it's to me, it's just gotten stale and it doesn't sound good. To make matters worse, I believe the walk from the new locker room, which is longer than the north locker room or the south locker room where it was when they began with the tunnel walk that we see now. It's much longer now, and the thing just seems to play over and over, and there's no energy or hype coming out of the guys when they're, walking down the tunnel, or certainly nothing in comparison to what it was when that thing started. It just needs a reboot, an update, new music, a new vibe, something new with as much multimedia and technological capacity as exists inside that football program and the athletic department. And we've seen it over and over again with the creations that they're able to make in terms of video production. Let them have at that and find something different. I mean, Matt Rule's been here for a year, so he understands, I think. I've not talked to him about the tunnel walk. I mean, there's generally more pressing matters, but I think he probably has a sense of what it's like to come out of the tunnel and how it feels. Troy Dannon's never been to a game at Memorial Stadium other than the spring game, so he might have to see it in 24 before it makes a change. I mean, there are going to be changes, obviously, coming to Memorial Stadium, and I'd say make that one of them, modernize that thing, and make it exciting for more than just the people who remember seeing it in the 90s.
Mitch, if it was up to you, do you have any song suggestions?
No, it doesn't have to be like a classic. I mean, Iowa does AC/DC, Back in Black. I mean, Virginia Tech has long done Enter Sandman. I think that one's probably run its course a bit too. I mean, those are classics. You're not going to steal from the Hawkeyes. No, I mean, I think it's probably got to be something that the players like. I mean, I don't know that I would be it's got to be a mix between what the players like and what the fans like. I mean, some of the stuff that they listen to at practice, and I don't want to sound like an ancient person here, but some of the stuff that they listen to at practice might not also be the best thing for the tunnel walk. But I think there's a happy medium there. Now, I haven't gotten in my Spotify channels and figured out what is the perfect solution for them as far as the actual music would go. They want to crowdsource that. I think there's young minds that have jobs inside the department, and they could talk to the players, talk to young fans, talk to old fans, talk to middle-aged fans. What would be something that would be great to do? I don't think the answer would be Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project.
Well, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, because that intro is so I one of my favorite songs, but it's so riveting. You need some sort of classic rock happy medium, Mitch, because the 20-year-olds are cranking up late 80s, early 90s tunes, and it's stuff you and I grew up on when it first came out. So Anonymous suggests Immigrant Song. I kind of like that take. That's pretty good.
KG suggests Cardi B.
Yeah,
wow.
we'll leave that one be.
Yeah.
On that, I don't know. Thunderstruck has been pretty good at the end of third quarters. Do you take
I don't buy there's not a great song. No, there's got to be some great songs out there. It's like there's lots of music out there. So I'm perplexed by some of the response that I got to the hey, ditch the tunnel walk music. Like, well, there can't be anything better. They just have to leave it what it is because there's just nothing would fit. Yeah, there is. I may not have the exact answer of what song it is, on the tip of my tongue, but There's better stuff. There's better stuff that's going to get the crowd pumped up and the players pumped up.
Mitch Sherman's with us from The Athletic, Hail Varsity Radio, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. And, on-field product leads to a juice stadium, big opponents. You're going to have a slew of those moving forward. You already did in the new Big Ten era for Nebraska, as they've been in it for a while. But you have four newbies coming in, and a lot of helmet games in the future, a lot of night games potentially. Of course, it's going to be a incredible set up for that Colorado-Nebraska night game. That'll bring the juice, which will be great. But you get an on-field performance that'll get the folks revved up in red, and it'll all take care of itself. But I don't disagree with you. It's time to explore, but it can't be. It's never been a library, but you've just seen so many instances of games go the wrong way where the fans check out. Not all, not even many, but a handful get out at halftime, or they're nowhere around in the fourth quarter because there's beer to drink in the parking lot, and I get it.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about the pregame, 90 seconds before kickoff, and really the bigger issue, obviously, is what's going on in the 60 minutes of game action. And it's not so much about the game experience that Nebraska creates. That's some of it. I mean, I think that's an area where Nebraska should continue to invest and experiment. But it's about the team, and it's about playing great defense, which they took a step toward that last year. That's something that I think more than anything else in the way that you play football creates an intimidating environment. Being a great defensive team, the black shirts when they're rolling are an intimidating unit. And we've seen it in the present day at times. We've seen it a lot in the past. And when it gets rolling, Memorial Stadium is, to repeat myself, one of the more intimidating venues, difficult places to play in all of college football. And I think it will at least be primed and ready for that, like few times in recent history on September 7th. Does the team take the ball and run with it and turn it into a night that people will always remember being there? That's to be determined.
It's Mitch Sherman with us here discussing some home field advantage thoughts for Husker football as they're left out of EA Sports top 25, toughest place to play. And Mitch, I want to get your thoughts here. We got to go there. Beer sales in the stadium. Does that help an atmosphere? Does that make things, or does that make it a more intimidating place to play? Should it happen? We know, we talked about it, fans are juiced up and drinking beers in the parking lot. So there's already the alcohol factor at Memorial Stadium, but you're not able to currently buy beers within the stadium. Is that something you look at in terms of improving atmosphere in addition
the
to
quick
improving
fix
the
from
bottom
Elijah?
line?
Well, yeah, as long as everybody's not stuck in line, if you've got a system that works and an infrastructure and you can do that, and I know when they've brought alcohol into the stadium, for a concert, there have been backups and it maybe didn't work perfectly, but if they can get some of those issues addressed, eventually it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when the time is right, and some of that again is going to be about setting up the stadium to make it work and having some changes with the amenities, and they're going to start on the east and the west side with that in a couple of years. So, I would have liked to have seen them stick to a bigger plan and do more to the stadium right off the bat. Even if it didn't involve tearing down the South Stadium after next year. I didn't disagree with Trev's initial plan to do that. I understand why they've made some of the adjustments that they have, but you can go too far and not do enough. I think the time is right in this moment to do a lot to the stadium. It needs it, and there's plenty of other places that are investing heavily. You can do NIL and stadium reconstruction. That's a myth, I think, in college football that you can't do that. I talked to some folks from Tennessee last night at the College World Series who are embarking on both of those projects as we speak. There's a school in Lawrence, Kansas, and in Columbia, Missouri, and Penn State, Northwestern that are all attempting those big things. And I think Nebraska has to make some changes to the infrastructure, improvements to the infrastructure before it's ready to go all in on alcohol sales at the stadium. When they get to that point, it does enhance the intimidation factor, I would say. But I don't look at that and say, well, they have to do this to become a difficult place to play. There are other things that rank higher on my list than, hey, they got to get the beer flowing.
Mitch Sherman with us from The Athletic. Mitch, thanks for a few minutes today, bud. Good to chat.
Good to talk to you guys as always. Thanks a lot.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Big thanks to Mitch Sherman for joining us. And, our friends on social media, the doldrums of the off season, right? Husker Game Day tweeting out discussions about Memorial Stadium, the vibe, the lack thereof. 2, predictions. We'll get to predictions in August. Panicking about recruiting. No panic here, but we do need to talk about Mr. Lateef, Nebraska's 2025 quarterback. Before we do that, though, some of your comments and requests on the StreamYard. KG wants Masters of Puppets. Metallica love theirs. Sal says, give me some Simple Man, Leonard Skinnard. Negative Mike's all about Limp Bizkit, break stuff.
I like that one.
That was great. That was great in the late 90s. And then there was this, don't admit you ever bought or purchased Limp Bizkit CDs back when they were such thing. Some country music, and there's a tug of war going on. Our friends from the Big Red Junkies want Blake Shelton, God's Country, remixed with Matt Rule, If We Die, We Die, that type of deal.
Well, I like the people that are up here saying, we need to find a way to mix rap and rock. How about the first to ever mix rap and rock, the Beastie Boys? You little Beastie Boys going for the tunnel walk?
Or you mean Aerosmith and Run DMC?
That also works.
Yeah.
They did it once, though, and the Beastie Boys made an entire career out of it.
How about Sabotage?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sabotage, Beastie Boys? That works.
I would like that.
That's a early front runner.
And it's also enough of a mix of the generations where my generation has heard it on probably video games and other radio stations. I don't know. But the older generation remembers it coming out. It works. I think it could be a good one.
William says, how about Red Kingdom remix by Tech 9?
I hate that song. I can't lie.
All right.
It might be just because it's a Chiefs things first, but nah, I'm out on that. No offense, William. That's just, I think it's probably my own personal bias with the Chiefs thing, but no,
Todd,
I'm not about that one.
Todd emails in, how about Lunatic Fringe, Red Rider? There's a sweet spot with classic rock, but I think Sabotage is solid. We'd play it, but that would pretty much screw up our YouTube stream. So next time, or just play it off of your phone. 489-1240. So let's talk TJ Lateef, and Nebraska's 2025 quarterback. Did a national interview with 24/7 post his Elite 11 experience. Couple of cuts we'll discuss. You listen, you decide. And listen, I don't care where a kid goes, right? I don't care where a kid goes. It's fun to follow the commitments. It's fun to bring some of them on. It's fun to talk about the class, give you the information. And then let's see where they're at a year into their career, 2 years into their career, see if they're still here. Nebraska had a real big attrition problem pre-Matt Rule, all right? So here is Mr. Lateef. Without further ado, again, 24/7 posting a couple minutes snippet here on social media with that. And away we go with Cut 1, Part 1.
Tom Lloyd, 24/7 Sports here at the Elite 11 Finals with Nebraska quarterback commit TJ Lateef. TJ, how are the last couple days been going here at the Elite 11, man?
It's been good. Got a chance to compete against a lot of good quarterbacks. In my opinion, I think everybody out here is good. Everybody out here is good. I seen it for myself. There's a lot of good quarterbacks out here, man. So yeah.
They call it elite for a reason, man.
Yeah.
Are they? What were some of your major takeaways? What are some of the things you've learned over the last 2 days?
Just to keep the main thing. Your next throw is the best throw. That's the biggest thing that I learned from my past 2 days being here.
And for the casual fan that hasn't seen your tape, what are some of the things you do really well?
Like I said, my next throw is my best throw. So I feel like I'm just poised. I feel like in big situations I don't get high. I feel like I just relax and just play ball.
I mentioned you're committed to Nebraska. Take me back to the moment you decided you wanted to be a Husker, and what were some of the reasons?
The biggest thing was the communication portion from the coaches. I felt wanted, and I felt like that was the place for me to be. Being in Lincoln, there's not a lot of things you could do to get in trouble. Being in Lincoln was a place that my family felt safe with me being in that environment, as I'm leaving them. You know what I mean?
I like that.
So,
not many things do in Lincoln to get you in trouble. You might be surprised, TJ.
Vape shops would disagree. just existing could be problematic.
Shields could also disagree.
Sure. Wow. So we're going to veer off the old yellow brick road and list a lot of things that can get you in trouble in Lincoln or Omaha or the great state of Nebraska. So far, so good, right? You're hearing this national interview. Tom Lloyd, national reporter, 24/7 Sports, national analyst. So far, Eric says wow, we're going to just stop there. You got to read the stream comments. Yeah. That's all I can say. We've got to edit here on the YouTube channel. So far so good with Nebraska's quarterback 2025. They liked him. Talented kid. You like to hear that he's even keel. You like to hear that he likes pressure moments. Wonderful. Second part of the interview, this is when Husker fans reach for the Jack Daniels.
Might have some top prospects, recruits watching right now. Who are some of your top targets? Who are some of the guys you're trying to get to join you at Nebraska?
So we just locked in a running back, but I'm still trying to lock in Cortez Mills. Antonio Branch went to Penn State, but I'm still trying to lock in my receiver Cortez.
And then away from the football field, obviously academics, football, top priorities for you, but what are some of your hobbies? What are some of the things you do off the football field?
Go to 24-hour fitness and play basketball. Sit in the steam room after 24 for like good 15 minutes, just go home.
And then you're going to enroll early?
Yeah.
In Nebraska, and recruitment completely shut down?
Recruitment we won't speak on that.
Fair enough. I love it. We'll keep you posted at 247sports.com. But it's TJ Lateef, obviously, potentially future Nebraska quarterback. I'm Tom Lloyd. Stay locked to 247sports.com.
That reporter at the end, potentially.
Skid marks being heard right now. So what's the deal? Are you panicked about it? Nebraska fans, some are saying, uh-oh. Well, listen, usually you want to build your class around your quarterback. And if you've had a ton of other decommitments, and I don't know that he's decommitting. It didn't sound super affirmative or promising or rock solid right there. So who knows? I don't know if Nebraska has or has not reached back out. I would like to think Nebraska stays in pretty good contact and communication with the quarterback for 2025, let alone just daily or weekly checkups. Who knows? Who knows where his head's at, what's going on? The here and now for 2024 is to do great work with what you got in Dylan Raiola and develop Danny Kalin and the other guys on staff and win ball games. That will take care of itself, whether Lateef's your quarterback in 2025 or not.
And I'm not concerned, if you say you're completely shut down, then you shut yourself down to the idea of other NIL collectives reaching out and saying, hey, we'll offer you this much, take care of yourself, A, and then B, see how the season goes. See what your path to playing time looks like at Nebraska. I'm not concerned that he's saying, maybe I'll leave. Okay, if he leaves, okay, you're fine still.
Well,
you still have another quarterback ready in the wings and Daniel Kalin.
Good prospect, though.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back in winding down hour one, it's Hail Varsity powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Plenty of you in the stream commenting on Lateef's comments and some thoughts here. Negative Mike says he talked to other Elite 11 quarterbacks and saw how bad the NIL is at Nebraska. That's Mike's take on it. And, I have a pretty good idea what Raiola is doing NIL-wise, and I have no clue what others are doing. And right now, Eric says, look, no issue with what the kid said. If I'm a top quarterback prospect, there's no way I'm locking myself into a 3-win team, win this year, and guarantee he stays. That's really a lot of it, man. You've got guys probably wanting to see it and believe it in a second year with Nebraska, Elijah, because you probably could have had 7 a year ago maybe 8 if you got real fortunate, despite all the issues on offense. And you look to this year, and it really kind of comes down to, do you believe it pops this year? And do you want to get on board early, buy a future, or are you going to wait and see proof in that performance? And, with Lateef, we'll see who's coming after him. Scott does have an interesting comment with what's available and how many spots are left, because a lot of other programs have the quarterback spots already filled. Mm-hmm. And it's a mobile sport, dude, with this transfer situation.
And that's what I'm going to say, with signing day still being 6 months away. Like, a lot can change between now and then. On the field for Nebraska, off the field with an NIL situation. Another school out there that you really like, maybe their quarterback situation changes up between now and signing day. Do you want to lock yourself in? I mean, yeah, you're committed to Nebraska. He hasn't decommitted from Nebraska. Is his recruitment shut down? I wouldn't want to get into that either, because a lot can change between now and December. Maybe you look at it and you say, man, Raiola looks like a great quarterback that's probably going to be the starter for the next 3 years. They got Kalen behind him, who also looks really good, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have a chance to actually show what I've got at Nebraska. So let's keep things open and see what else formulates. Maybe somebody else swoops in with a big NIL offer that you don't want to say no to because you have to take care of yourself and your family.
Or do you say, well, NIL's great. I can get more money X, Y, or Z. My fit here, and this is thinking more like an adult, where I could go here and get really good and also get developed. But that is a lot of years in investment down the road, with the recruiting train not pausing for your development. Mm-hmm. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. And, interesting tidbit, we invite you to go back and check out Mitch Sherman's segment earlier in this first hour with Mitch, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio. He touched on the dual gig right now in college athletics, that is for Nebraska to take care of the stadium fundraising, but also, yes, go make it happen with NIL resources, and they both need to have that river of money flowing in. And he laid out a lot of schools that are being able to juggle both. Michael Bruntz with Husker 24/7 on the way. Matt Schick next hour.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, it's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence, and follow the show, watch the show. Hail Varsity, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and the YouTube channel, Hail Varsity. Like and subscribe there. We welcome in with our friends at 24/7, Michael Bruntz joining us, and can follow Bruntsy on Twitter at Michael Bruntz, at Nebraska 24/7, where you read him. Bruntsy, it's the dog days of summer. We're talking tunnel walk tunes and home field advantage. And the freaking weather, bro. How are you?
Yeah, you hit all the topics there. I think we're probably a week or two away from starting to entertain the alternate uniform talk. Are we not? Like that's.
So if we're going to make the bingo card, all right. If we're going to make this bingo card, it's going to be quarterback numbers for a freshman.
Yeah.
Win total for the year. It's going to be. We've hit a couple of them here. Recruiting and NIL. Panic comments from committed recruits. And we're right here with Tunnel Walk, beer sales, and how scary is Little Red?
Yeah, those are all good things. You're what? How far away from Big Ten Media Days? We're about a month out, right?
Yes.
And you start getting the predicted finish, the Cleveland.com poll. That'll tie up about 24 hours. Trying to think what else. It used to be. Well, in May It used to be in May you would get like the game times and things like that. You would get the back and forth whether a game should be a night game or not. We don't have it anymore because I think coaches finally figured it out. But you got when are the black shirts going to be handed out? That's usually at the start of that talk would start up and at the start of August. So you're right in the window. I mean, I think we're hitting all the topics.
I love it. So back to the most intimidating environment or toughest road venues. A&M tops the list from EA Sports.
Uh-huh.
And you've covered a lot of ball games. What's the most bat bleep crazy spot you've been in?
That's a good question. Well, I was on the field in, what was it, 2005 when Missouri when Brad Smith went off
in the fourth quarter.
Was that? Yeah. And the Missouri fans, they had that string of games where they were rushing the field a lot. And Missouri, to me, was always a game where the fans felt there was a little more edge to it than there was other places. It was just an angry fan base. So that one kind of stands out as a sneaky place. I never covered a game at A&M, so I can't speak to that.
Are you thankful for that?
I'd like to see it. I mean, it's a long ways down there, and back in the old college paper days, you were driving everywhere, so I didn't miss that. But I wouldn't have minded seeing it once. In the Big Ten, I'd say probably Ohio State's up there. Penn State's up there. The EA Sports list, I didn't have any quibbles with the top 6. Wisconsin being in the top 10 really surprised me. I don't really consider that a scary or intimidating environment. BC and I were going back and forth about this today. Iowa is a sneaky tough one at night, I feel like. Nebraska never plays there at night usually. I mean, they're going to this year, but that's a tough out for a highly ranked team when you got to go into Iowa City in like October and play a night game.
They've got a history. They've done well against big-name opponents at night.
Yeah. Well, and it's just with the style of play, it's going to be a 4-quarter just like boxing match too. So that I feel like kind of adds to it. But we were kind of saying like what Big Ten venue is kind of sneaky tough, and I think Iowa is probably maybe doesn't get its due around the conference that maybe it should. That I should probably have that take and duck, but I think that's probably true.
Not to derail this conversation completely, but some breaking news in here to Hail Varsity Radio. Jim Schlossnagle is off to Texas.
Bevo.
Yeah.
Bevo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something.
That's hilarious.
I can't believe it, actually.
It was the hot board was 3. Most of the hot boards I saw were like 4 guys, and 2 of them were coaching last night. So, I mean, it's kind of amazing that you can go from that to not only leaving town but heading across to a place that right into the clutches of a rival.
Well,
he really pulled a Trev Alberts on the way out, leaving right when things are
and Trev's
looking up.
Trev's pouring money into the new baseball upgrade.
Yeah,
but it's Del Conte. I mean, his old boss is at Texas from TCU.
Yeah.
So I mean that's it.
Wow.
So
it's kind of like I hope that people appreciate just like the different level that like SEC schools are on right now in terms of what they're spending on baseball. When you've got A&M spending $80 million on upgrades, or $80 million, you got Tennessee dumping $100 million in. I mean that's just like that's unbelievable to me. That's the going rate down there. It's like a different sport.
Well, it is, and the other part of that discussion, Bruntsy, is there's a lot of oil wells to go drop the old collection plate off to. Not necessarily in Tennessee, but There's money in Tennessee. There are a lot of
a lot of moonshine in those haulers, Chris.
there's a lot of fellas there lined up to be friends of the program.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, when you kind of start looking at the numbers, and it's not particularly surprising. But when you're basically picking from like the top 4 coaches in the game right now, that's pretty remarkable.
It's Michael Bruntz with us here, 24/7 Sports with us, Hail Varsity Radio. And Michael, to bring it back to Husker football, as we've hit the breaking news just briefly, I want to go back to Husker football, the tradition talk. We talked in the first hour about changing the tunnel walk song. I want to get your thoughts. What tradition, should it go away with Husker football, would piss off the fans the most? Which do you think, like, Husker Nation is the most collectively behind? Because I think Sirius is up there.
The tradition of winning is...
That's gone away.
Got away. Not before rule, but go ahead, Brunson.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I would not want to be the one that was picking the next song. You know what I mean? Because it feels like one of those things that is just really, really tough to get right, especially if you're doing it from like we're going to do this from like a marketing perspective. It almost has to be like when they did Let Me Clear My Throat, it was a very like organic moment that seemed to kind of catch on, and people really liked that. But I don't feel like you would be able to please everybody or a majority of people with whatever you chose. I mean, I think it's almost the easier course to just keep what you're doing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like the in-game experience at Nebraska just kind of needs a little bit of a spruce up, like in terms of, you know, when you're announcing things, when you're bringing people out to acknowledge them. It doesn't feel like there's a great feel for when those things should happen, and it's a little too prescribed. That's my take.
You mean when you get a 4th down stop, there's a TV timeout, and it's dance team time?
Yeah, or I mean, you're bringing out the bowling team to recognize their Big Ten title. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I think they should be recognized, or whoever should be recognized. But I think there needs to be a little bit more understanding of flow and things like that than maybe what there is. I know it's hard to do, but that needs to be hit on a little bit better, in my opinion.
Brunsey, with Nebraska and the term of intimidation in Memorial Stadium, does it belong in the conversation to be top 25 or top 10, or is it strictly just a chicken or egg win and it'll be back where it belongs?
Yeah, I think the winning part of it helps. I mean, you guys know. I mean, there's those games where you can kind of just feel it when you're in the stadium, where there's a little bit more edge to the day. I mean, obviously the Miami game in 14 stands out, and I have a sense that the Colorado game this year is going to kind of be similar, where, you know, people of a certain age are going to see that helmet warming up on the other side of the field, and it's just going to get the blood boiling a little bit more. I don't know if it's possible that Nebraska can kind of get to that level a little bit more. When I saw that list, I was like, I could see Nebraska maybe around like 20th or something like that, but it's not top 10. I really don't think so, and especially recently. But, I mean, I think they can get there. I mean, I even thought that the crowd that was in Memphis for the NCAA tournament game, I mean, they were dialed in, and there was anger. I mean, every time any Texas A&M did anything, they were just booed mercilessly. And to me, that is much more of a intimidating environment. And I think Nebraska just needs to be able to get there more regularly. And I think winning is part of that. And, you know, I think, you know, maybe if you can get things turned around, you know, people will follow suit, and it'd be a little bit more intimidating place to play.
Michael, in terms of importance, where do you rank getting the student section closer to the field in terms of getting that energy, getting that environment back?
Yeah, it helps. I mean, I think getting them closer to the field helps. I mean, you think of the places that are a little bit more of, you know, the intimidating type places. I mean, you go to Penn State, and if you know that end zone you have to go into where the student section is, I mean, that's a really tough thing to do. Ohio State's a little bit the same way, where they have what do they call it, the Block O or whatever they call it. That it's pretty loud, and they're all together, kind of as close to the field as they can be. And I know that's a balance at Memorial Stadium with the way that everything is now, but I think that's got to be part of the conversation of, how do you kind of upgrade Memorial Stadium is getting the students a little bit closer. They're your future donors, your future fans. I mean, I think you just need to make that experience as good as it can be, and they'll probably be a little bit louder in response too.
Michael Bruntz with us, and we're talking Big Red football and tunnel walk and intimidation factor. So, Bruntsy, as we look at the wrap with the College World Series, you touched a little bit on to the SEC and what they're pouring into baseball. It's pretty incredible. Overall, what did you think of this series? What did you think of Tennessee and some of the cast of characters they had?
Yeah, no, I forget the guy's name, but the reliever that they had in the 8th inning last night, I was like, what a perfect Tennessee baseball player. Just huge beard, huge mustache, long hair. That was just kind of a fun team. It helped that they were pretty darn good too, and it's hard, I think, to run through the College World Series as the favorite and come out the other side as the winner. And they did a really nice job. I mean, they were the right mix of hitting and pitching, and it felt like at times, I don't know if you guys felt this way, but it was almost like the only thing that was holding Tennessee back was just kind of their comfort level and how dialed in they were through the weekend. So, I think the best team won, and I think you saw the kind of, the climb that's there for other conferences and teams looking to get into the College World Series. I mean, when you have a team that was 500 in the SEC make a pretty darn good run into the College World Series, I mean, that just tells you the talent level you're dealing with. And, you look right now at the transfer portal and a lot of the top transfers and guys that are mid-majors and guys hitting 15, 20 home runs, they're going to SEC programs. So for a lot of those teams, it's just reloading rather than rebuilding. So I expect to see a lot of the same teams back here next year as well.
Bruntsy, on the recruiting front, your take on how Nebraska is shaping up right now, and I know a National 24/7 interview that's picking up some steam viral-wise with TJ Lateef, a reaction to that as well.
Yeah, for people who haven't seen it, told our Tom Lloyd, kind of asked if he was locked in with Nebraska, and he declined to talk about it. So, it kind of warrants watching, I think, as we kind of go through the summer and into the fall. We'll kind of see how that plays out. I know Nebraska, for a number of months, was the team that was recruiting him the hardest. I don't think anything there is the fault of Nebraska. I mean, I think he's kind of keeping his options open, as most recruits do. But that was definitely kind of like, oh, okay, I guess this is happening. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But you mentioned earlier kind of what the level of panic should be about where things are right now as we sit here in June. I don't worry about it too much. I mean, I think Nebraska's swinging pretty big at a few of the guys that they brought in for official visits, and they've done a really nice job of recruiting in the last couple of years, and I think they'll continue that, especially if you're able to show something on the field, a pulse on the field, and get it rolling a little bit, which I understand that's probably also an annual conversation, but I think they're in a good spot with a number of prospects here, as a lot of guys are looking to decide between now and like the 4th of July.
Michael Bruntz with us, Oscar 24/7. Bruntsy, you take care. Thanks for the time today, bud.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks. Take care.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Matt Schick at ESPN_Schick on Twitter. The Schick and Nick podcast, Sirius XM and ESPN duties. Schick, what'd you think? Oh, Rocky Top, I can still hear him carrying a tune all the way from Omaha.
Yeah, Rocky Top on the mountaintop. Why not? The pun works, the play on words work. It was a great event. It was awesome to watch. They were the best team in the country, probably been the best team in the country the last handful of seasons, and to see them finish it off was pretty cool. Look, I mean, it just kind of shows you that if you want to make an investment, if you want to, take a chance on a young coach with some good footprint connections who's got energies, and you pour money in for NIL and facilities and all those good things. I mean, that's Knoxville's got it rolling right now. We'll see what happens with football this fall, but there's a lot to like about what's going on in Tennessee.
So, going back to Twitter, the Rocky Top reaching the mountaintop, you and Robert Redford agree on the pun.
Yeah, and I mean, from the Schick account, as it was in the 8th inning, I said, will the final call of the College World Series include a pun with the phrase Rocky Top? Because you could just see it coming. It's just coming down the tracks. You could hear the train. You could hear the rumbling. So the fact that the train actually crossed in front of you should not be a surprise. You've got eyes. You've got ears.
Well, what's your
take? What's that?
So I was going to ask, should a commentator in that moment have the line prepared for the end of the game?
It's work for Jim Nantz.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's no question about it. I mean, I would like to think, and I know Carl Ravitch, I would like to think that, Charles Schwalkoff Stadium was not off the cuff. Because that's not something that just comes to mind. Like, oh, my goodness, what am I going to say now? And then Charles Schwalkoff made up words. That's not where you want to live in that moment. So I would think he pre-planned that. The Rocky Top, I had in my mind, Rocky Top is on top of the college baseball world. He took it. This is why he gets paid 7 figures and I get paid 4. He does the mountaintop part and made it actually sing. So I thought that was really well done, and it was really the only option when you think about it.
Well, with the Matt Schick Baseball Academy, are you going to be showing the mother of all slides to home plate?
Yeah, well, it's funny because in Little League he would have been called out because you have to be feet first. So that's not something that I can show the 12U boys, but 13 and up, when we do and 10 and up travel ball tournaments, they don't care what you do as long as you have a check and the check clears. They, whatever you want to do. But yeah, that was an incredible play. Turns out to be the winning run, and it was just a lot of. I mean, just some stuff you just can't teach. And there's an edge to Tennessee that it's hard to. I mean, talk about the big C word culture. A slide happens like that because Tony Vitello is the head coach. All of it is kind of an extension to him. So that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, I like when I tweeted out. I said, "Greatest slide in the history of organized athletics," which is just an incredibly hot take and so not true because there are better slides than that, I'm sure. It's just the classic Twitter, and then you always get the guy responding with, not a great work by the catcher. Oh, and there have been better slides. There have been better slides. And I go, thank you, nerd. We don't have to. It's just a tweet. Just a tweet. We don't need to actually take it seriously, but it's fine. It's fine. It's the greatest slide ever in my judgment.
I mean, it's up there. Like, I'm not sure. Greatest slide ever might be a little much, but in that moment to make that play, the way it ends up being the winning run, I mean, I don't think you're far off.
I mean, if you put that slide in a tie game, walk off, if that's the Charles Schwalkoff run there at the end, that's top slide in the history of college baseball and perhaps even organized athletics, if that happened there. But in the moment, it didn't feel as big. But in retrospect, it was just as large as it would have been if it was a Schwalkoff. No doubt.
I'd like to think if you keep on saying this Charles Schwackoff thing, you're going to make it a thing. I'd like to think the more you say it, the more people are going to pick up on it. Like, yeah, let's do this.
I don't want it to die. I don't want it to die. Like, it was a great call in the moment with Honeycutt, Chapel Thrill, Charles Schwackoff. Like, why would you let a great call like that die? In fact, I would say every walk-off should be required to be dubbed a Charles Schwackoff when it's at that stadium. Creighton games. Who in the walk-off? It's a Charles Schwackoff home run! That's what I want to hear. That's especially when they play Nebraska. That's what it should be.
Several thousand Big Red fans are shaking and exhaling right now with that. Matt Schick's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Schick, wanted to spend a minute here on A&M and Coach Schlossnagle and your gut, your insight with college baseball and the Texas opening. He wasn't a fan of the question just moments after they lost the chance at a national championship.
Yeah, it's a couple of things there. One, when he says, the only issue that I had with the way he answered it was calling the reporter selfish for asking the question. Sorry for doing my job as a reporter. Sorry for asking questions that people want answers to. And when's the next good moment to ask that question? When is the appropriate moment? When are we going to talk to you again? The answer is not until either we're talking in the off season or you're the new head coach at Texas. So we might as well get you on the record here and talk about it. There's never a good time to ask that question. Bonnie Bernstein asking the follow-up to Roy Williams of, if they offer you the job, will you take it? Now, that's kind of that's a follow-up question that probably was unnecessary, but at least you have to ask it. The Schlossnagle thing has been percolating for a while, and covering squeeze play and being connected with everyone who's calling all of these games, studio analysts, that name was there from the jump. I'm talking 3 weeks ago, so it would not surprise me in the least, especially with the connections with the AD there at Texas, if that happened. Nowhere in his answer did he say, I'm not leaving. I did find it curious that he said, I left my family to come to A&M. This is also on the heels of Bill Mosiello, the head coach at Ohio State, saying, I need to leave Ohio State because my family is back in Texas. Does anyone take a baseball job with their family in tow anymore? Like, what is it about college baseball where they say, I divorced my wife for this job? It's like, what are we doing? Like, you're making $1 million+ a year. Bring your family with you. Now, maybe it was his extended family or something. I don't know. But maybe that's the life of the college baseball. Like, I'm not sure about College Station. Why don't you, honey and the kids, why don't you stay back home and we'll see how this goes after a year. And maybe they're more enthusiastic about Austin than they would be about College Station. I don't know, but
there's less yell leaders.
It surprised me in the least.
There's less yell leaders.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, you take your first year of the contract, you put up with the yell squad, the yell leaders, and all the chants. Where, if you're not a part of it, you don't understand it, and if you are a part of it, you can't explain it. I don't know if that's for me or not. John Oakey on line 2, but I could understand if Schloss said, "Let's go to Texas."
Well, maybe we're looking at this the wrong way, Schick. Maybe Schlossnagle was meaning to say last night, I took this job in College Station to get away from my family. Why would I go back?
Right. Yeah. What if he had said, look, my mother-in-law is in Austin. Why would I go there? What if he just threw his entire extended family under the bus and said, look, this is my family. I don't have a family. This is all I've got. I'm staying put. But, yeah, college baseball has arrived when we're talking about when we're talking about coaches leaving one rival for another for 7 figures. Here we are, baby.
Well, and how what kind of grin does Boss Hog in Texas have, right? If they do poach A&M, they've already kicked dirt on A&M moving into the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just it's hilarious, quite honestly.
Yeah. Here we are. We don't care if you beat us in the regional or whatever. That doesn't matter to us. we will take your coach. We have the money. Oh, you've got money too. Yeah, but we're in Austin, so that you can't move here. So we can move mountains to do whatever it takes to get here. Yeah, A&M went from, remember when that conference realignment was going on, and I think it was Ross Bjork at the time at A&M when those rumors first started being reported. He said, "No, we've got veto power. That ain't happening." And then a week later, it was like, "Well, it's probably be a good thing if they came here." So that's they understand who's the boss, and we'll find out who's laughing last here.
Last thought here on college baseball, Matt, as the Southern dominance is expected to continue, something we talked about 2 weeks ago on this show. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see the College World Series moving out of Omaha and moving south?
No, not because of the contract and not because of the history and not because of, if it ain't broke, why would you mess with it type of thing. It's just too good. And that contract, I don't know when the contract runs out. I thought it was a 25 to 35-year deal when they signed it. So it's, you could. There's always a scenario where they say, "Hey, we dominate the sport. Why are we even having to hop on a plane to go play in a World Series?" But I am interested to see how the sport evolves, what the northern schools decide to do, how do they get in the game? Do they start? It's a non-revenue sport. Even the schools and the teams in the Southeast. It's not like they're making money off of this stuff. Like it's really is a non-revenue sport. Maybe LSU baseball does, but it's a big expense. It's a great commercial for your university, but at the same time, is it something that northern schools with the NIL advent and paying the players and player compensation and them getting a cut, are they going to be willing to spend money? Bad money over bad money for what? Like for the chance to host a regional? It really puts in perspective what Eric Bakich in Michigan, what they did a handful of years ago, and what Oregon State was able to do. So I think that's really where you just wonder where these other programs, if they're going to put their money where their mouth is, or if they even care. And they say, "Look, we don't have a chance here. Let's punt on this baseball thing and these diamond sports, and let's put all the resources, as if we weren't already, into college football."
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Matt Schick is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. And Schick, let's switch gears. The hot topic today, it is the offseason, so where and when did Nebraska fans get slighted? The example today is EA Sports. When it comes to their stadium rankings, most difficult places to play, and Nebraska not making the EA Sports list of top, not even in the top 25. Now, to be fair, since 2014, the last time there was an EA Sports listing, Nebraska came in at number 13 in 2014. The Big Reds record since then at Memorial Stadium, 34-30. Since 2021, they are 10-21 against Big Ten foes and a beautiful 42% winning percentage overall. Does Nebraska belong? Take the environment and separate the on-field performance.
No, I don't think so. It's hard to separate the two, because wouldn't a home field environment help even an average team win more games than you lose, or at least flip the coin and 3 times out of 4 you're winning those games? The atmosphere is outstanding. There's no question about it. Does it belong in the top 25? I'd probably put it above Michigan State. I'd probably put it, they don't have cowbells, so maybe Mississippi State does have the advantage there. Thank God they don't have cowbells. I'd put them above Arkansas. I've been to Florida State, but it was when they were getting 70 hung on them by Clemson, and people were leaving at halftime, so that's not a good judgment call. The list was interesting. The A&M thing at the top. Yeah, you have a lot of Big Ten stadiums that are out instead of up when it comes to holding in the sound, where an Ohio State, if they had built it more up than out, I'd put them in the top 5, but I don't think it's an incredibly imposing place to play. I would put LSU, if it was at night, if these were all night games, I'm putting LSU at 1. I'm probably putting Penn State at 2. Wisconsin could potentially crack the top 5 if we were talking at night. So, in the daytime, I'd put all the Florida schools at the top. Who wants to play there in September? I mean, this is awful. It's more about the geography than it is the stadium. But I'm not sure I would put Nebraska there just yet. It's just really hard to separate the performance from the crowd. And I would always say that, the one thing that works against Nebraska is they do appreciate the visiting team. And anytime you're clapping for the visiting team, maybe it doesn't feel as imposing or threatening a place as when, you're getting stuff thrown at you, like the classy SEC schools sometimes do.
Matt, I want to get your thoughts here on just a second on how Nebraska can, I guess, replicate some of those other fearsome environments without throwing mustard bottles on the field. But I do want to get your thoughts quickly here on some underrated venues in college football. If you're to sit back and say you need to go check out a game there, it might not crack a top 25, but it's a great place to watch college football with a great crowd. Any teams, any names come to mind?
Oh, in terms of, like here in North Carolina, App State's stadium is pretty sweet. It's a cool environment. Now, is it like imposing? No, I wouldn't say that, but it's a real unique environment at Kidd Brewer Stadium. I look at, you think about what stadiums kind of are jarring to play. Eastern Washington, do they still have the red field? That would be one that would be somewhat imposing. Cool backdrops. I know Georgia Tech has a pretty sweet view of downtown Atlanta, but in terms of other underappreciated ones, I would always say, going to, just being on the banks there at Army would be interesting. I can't remember what's the name of that stadium, Mitchie Stadium. That would be cool. Being at the base of the mountains at BYU would be cool, but there aren't a lot of. I haven't been to a bunch of these places that I'm even talking about. I've just heard about it. I've been to the one at App State, and it's pretty sweet. Anytime you're at the base of, me in the base of the Flatirons there at Colorado, it's pretty cool. I'm not sure how much of an imposing environment it is. It is when they're good. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how long that lasts this season. Well,
and that's where I'm going. For a couple on my short list, and I know they've been off in the wilderness, but Virginia Tech is someplace I throw in there. I think Colorado's a nightmare to go play at, especially
the altitude factor.
Well, when they're just cranked up.
That's
when they're cranked up and factor in a night game. I think Boulder's there. It's got to be the right opponent, but I think Nebraska can get there. My scale is 10 being the old Orange Bowl at night, Miami. And, 0 on the scale the other way is Kansas State pre-Bill Snyder, where it's friends and family. Right?
Yeah. That's a pretty good one. I can remember being at Kansas State and seeing a couple of those Nebraska teams really struggle there. That was pretty imposing. I wasn't there at night, but was there for an afternoon till. I'm trying to think. Oklahoma at night is pretty rowdy, pretty good. With those oranges being thrown at from the hillbillies out there.
Good edit.
Exactly. That was hillbillies. There's a lot there. I've been to South Carolina is a pretty good environment, but I was frankly only there to call a spring game, so everyone went home happy. But there's a few out there. It's interesting. We used to want these football environments. We wanted to recreate the stadium environment at home, and now it's about the reverse. How do you create the home environment at the stadium? And we're building up, and now it feels like we're scaling back, and that's probably the right thing to do, especially if you're Nebraska guarding against the future, if they fall on harder times, or if the fact that, people just stop going to games. Who knows how that's going to go.
Matt, if it was up to you to make Nebraska a more imposing home environment, is step one beer?
Yeah, step one could always, I suppose, be alcohol. you'd like to be able to pitch a concept that's a little more creative. Like, imagine being at that board meeting and go, guys, I got one word, beer. It's like, thank you, Carol. Appreciate your suggestion there. No one's thought of that. They have taken some steps with the Thunderstruck. Like, that's cool. It's also not great when the opposing team like Michigan is dancing to it as well. It's like, hey, this is supposed to scare you. How dare you? But I'm trying to think of, like, LSU. They used to have, and my friend Kevin Carter, who played for Florida, would say when they would go to LSU, they used to have the actual tiger was there in a cage as the visiting team walked out, and they had to walk by it as they went out there. I don't know what the equivalent would be of just something to scare the opposing team. If there's some sort of combine that's churning up something as you're going. I don't know what it would be if you could lean into something there, but something to frighten the opposing team and just one last chill up the spine as they head out onto the field.
Well, there's always a Little Red, meth Little Red.
Yeah.
I mean,
how about the 1970s? The 1970s Little Red. Just put that mascot, put the head there with no body, and just let it sit there as they walk by. And like, what is this thing? Where are we? Where are we? Charlie from Lost. That's how they feel.
Matt Schick with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Schick, always good to talk some ball with you. Thanks for giving us a few minutes, and have a good rest of your summer. We'll check in again soon.
Guys, anytime. Thank you. Appreciate the walk off. Talk to you soon.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, big thanks to Mitch Sherman from The Athletic, Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7, and Matt Schick with SiriusXM, the Schick and Nick podcast, and ESPN, podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play to download the show, or rewatch Hail Varsity YouTube or Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Elijah, You're cooking up something for the bye week when it comes to the college football schedule. You've taken breathers to SEC country during Husker off weeks. What are you proposing? What's this lineup look like?
Well, we're talking October 12th. It's the week after Rutgers, if I remember correctly, between Rutgers and Indiana.
Okay.
And what we're looking at, Ole Miss at LSU.
Sweet.
Florida at Tennessee.
Okay.
Washington at Iowa. Ohio State at Oregon.
Can you get us a direct flight to Eugene?
Probably not. I can try. I don't know. I ain't got airline connections. We also have Penn State at USC.
Cool.
And then Oklahoma, Texas.
Let's call Barry up and say, hey, Coach, can we crash with you? And by the way, can you put us up somewhere in Dallas? That'd be cool.
Get us a suite. The Hail Varsity Radio suite for the Red River Shootout.
Just put us somewhere in the State Fair.
I mean, as long as we're there.
Yeah.
That probably is a top list. Ole Miss at LSU.
I've always wanted to see the Red River rivalry.
I have as well. But yeah, no, it'd be good. It feels a little different now. It's SEC though.
Even more hate. No, I think the. I think the Iowa-Washington game would be subtly pretty good. That's only 5+.
That'd be good, but we're also already planning a trip to Kinnick at the end of November. So you do want to see the same college football stadium twice in a year. It's a 14-hour drive to Baton Rouge if you want to go see Ole Miss at LSU.
No.
We
got to pack our bags for Columbus.
Like for the Nebraska game? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm already planning on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's 13 hours to Knoxville. Florida at Tennessee.
If we we should have made better friends with Tennessee folks.
Yeah, we should have.
Hey, Big Cat in the Orange, I know you've got an RV. Can we stay in it?
I'm just trying to think in terms of all of these. What's like the college football cathedral that I really want to see?
South Bend.
Should that be? I mean, you've been.
It's incredible.
But like, this week, I mean, you have some cathedrals. USC, Texas, Tennessee, LSU. You can maybe even put
Coliseum's a dump.
Yeah, no, I do want to see
from what I've been told.
I still am planning on going out to LA later this year for Nebraska USC. So,
some underrated spots. Todd emails in North Dakota State, Montana. And I've never been to Stillwater, but he said Stillwater was nuts.
Well, North Dakota, Fargo Dome?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying go play the Bison up there and make sure you can wire your jaw shut. Tough football team.
What other... I mean, we kind of have listed off the who's who of college football venues to go see.
The Snake Pits. Grant Wistrom going to be with us tomorrow at 5. Tune in for legend, Hall of Famer, great dude. Grant Wistrom with us tomorrow. We'll try and check in with Evan Bland, get a Jock Doc handled. And we'll talk with Babbers. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out Hail Varsity Radio. Powered by Cornhead Lager. Back at you tomorrow at 4. Thanks.